The Curse of La Llorona. Welcome to K3 TV. My name's Loki and I'm here to bring you a film review. The film that we're reviewing today is The Curse of La Llorona. La Llorona is a folk tale that many Mexicans and Latinos in general know as the boogeyman, or boogie woman I should say in this case. And me being Mexican, I actually have some very personal critiques that I found gave me a little bit of a bias towards what I thought the movie should be like. So I can tell you on that perspective. This movie comes to you directed by Michael Chavez. It is starring some people that you may recognize from film, some even from TV, such as Raymond Cruz from Breaking Bad as Turco. He comes back in as sort of semi-witch doctor kind of guy that had a falling out with the church. We have Marisol Ramirez, I believe, and that is actually the title La Llorona. She actually did a great performance for what it was, with what she had to work with, in my opinion. And if at this point I don't seem too excited about this film, I want to be completely upfront. It was a bit hard to get through, just to get that out of the way. So if my excitement level is a little bit lower, that's why. But once we get into actually why it's bad, that's where I'll get a little bit more excited. Arguably the most well-known actress in this movie would be Linda Cardellini. Linda Cardellini, you might know her from Scooby-Doo back in the day, which they do make a small nod to that some eagle-eyed viewers might be able to go ahead and pick up on, which I did notice until after the movie. Speaking of nods and mentions, this movie is actually part of a universe, and I didn't know that going into it, but it is part of the Conjuring and Annabelle universe that Warner Brothers is trying to do. So similar to something like The Mummy, where they're trying to make their universe, or what are those movies called? The Avengers or something like that, if you guys know those. Everyone's trying to get on that bandwagon. But this one, for what it is, like a horror type universe, it's not too bad. The connection is very mild, and it all... spoilers, by the way, I haven't mentioned to this point, but there's going to be some spoilers in here. I'll try not to get too deep into the spoilers, but it's all tied together through the priest. So like the Annabelle and the Conjuring and all that, it's all tied by that one priest. So La Llorona takes place in the 1970s. You're first introduced to the movie with a family that is pretty sketchy. You don't know what's going on right now. There's some trouble with some kids, and you end up finding out pretty much that the mother is not endangering the kids as you first may think, but she's actually protecting her kids from something that you don't know. From there, it pretty much turns into a long game of tag at first, because the curse kind of gets directed towards the main family, which would be with Linda Cardellini and her two children, which the children actually do a really good job with the acting. The acting from the kids is actually pretty good. At times, it's what you would expect. Other times, you can actually be a little bit surprised. So that's pretty entertaining. But most of the acting in this movie, Linda Cardellini is no exclusion. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Entertaining for what it is, but it's pretty bad acting, in my opinion. It's just not believable at some points, and some delivery is just not there. So getting back to it, from the curse getting directed to their family, the start of the movie is slow. First whole half of the movie is pretty much a long, drawn out time that they took just to convince Linda Cardellini's character, which I couldn't even tell you the character's name anymore because it wasn't really memorable, but it takes her that long just to be convinced that this curse is actually happening. From broken mirrors to doors shutting, to her kids screaming, to them being terrorized, it feels like the character is not even convinced that this could even possibly be real. And it's not even until halfway through the runtime that she decides, I might need some help. Something might be going on here. Something's wrong. And it's not until the halfway point where I even woke up, because it was really hard to sit through just you wanting to scream at the screen and be like, hey, do something about this that's going on right now. But once it does get down to it, that's when you end up getting exposed to the fact that it's part of a grand universe. They do the mention about the other movies in the universe, like such as The Doll. That's the mention that they do for it. Just pretty much that there was a doll that got possessed and all this and that. So that's of course with the other movie, Annabelle. After that small mention, which serves no purpose at all really in the movie besides just tying the two universes together, which is cool for some people, I guess. You get introduced to the person that the priest recommends, which is Raymond Cruz's character, which Raymond Cruz is like the most entertaining part of the whole movie. He's the only reason why you'd even finish the movie in the first place. He plays this sort of witch doctor. They call him a certain name, kind of like a healer in a way, but it's essentially a witch doctor. He's fallen out of line with the church, that type of character where, you know, he just does things for just the good and all that now, and he does it well. He's a badass. There's even some comedy in it too. There's some comic relief, which is well needed because some of the tones of the whole movie gets really stale. So it does give a little bit of comic relief there with how outlandish everything is. But pretty much the movie was not, it didn't really have the greatest payoff, but it's entertaining, at least on that like last half right there. To be honest with you, fans of Supernatural might get a little bit of a feel of it being reminiscent to something like that, because it just feels like it's just a supernatural creature. And now I'm starting to believe that Warner Brothers is going to make like just supernatural movies in general, because that's all it pretty much is. The monster is La Llorona, and then they defeat her. Speaking of La Llorona, she is changed quite a bit from the normal folktale that some of you may know. The main things are the mark. There is a mark now that she leaves, and breaking glass, things like that. But at the same time, I just wanted to touch on that just because I actually kind of support this kind of an innovation with certain folktales, because I believe people have a problem with it, mainly just because in film, everything's kind of set in stone. When you watch it, you get what you got, and then you rewatch it and it's still the same thing, unless it's something like Star Wars and it's, George Lucas changing who shot who. But besides that, you get what you got over and over again. And people get mad because that's not the folktale that they knew. But I kind of support this kind of innovation. In closing, what I personally thought about this movie, it won't really be remembered. Will it be a cult classic or anything like that? No, I really don't think so. This movie got a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's one of the most brutal rating systems. But, even IMDb got a 5.9. Or gave it a 5.9, and that's at the end of the opening weekend, which we're at right now. Ratings aside, it does have to be mentioned that La Llorona, after all I've said about it, did get #1 in the box office on its opening weekend, beating movies like Shazam. So that is pretty impressive, and this is for a horror movie in mid-April, which some people might think is destined for failure, but maybe some people needed that kind of spice right now. All in all, my final letter grade for this movie is a D+. Yeah, D+, because it has some entertaining parts to it, and it's not an absolutely horrible movie. I actually did have some fun with it, and I don't regret having watched it. So, D+. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, because in a few days, I'll be doing Avengers Endgame. So La Llorona, what did you guys think about it? You like it? You didn't like it? Let me know in the comment section below so we can talk about it. Thank you so much for watching K3 TV. Peace out.
And if you enjoy our videos, please support us on patreon.com so we can make an X-Men edition as presenters. Thank you.